you know, you can sort of change the settings, but you should have, if you're on the laptop particularly, you can change it to speaker view if you want to. So guys, well, we were meant to meet up in person. This was a photograph from our Heart to Heart team conference. So there's loads of new team members on the call since February. This was the first weekend in February where we have a 2-day conference, and it was the first one this year that we did. We had 50 people over the 2 days, but in both days, and it was absolutely fantastic. And so it definitely is nice to meet in person. And we'd planned this for a meet in person training event dotted around the country actually. But of course we can't do that because we're on lockdown. But no, we will persist and carry on, and actually everyone's enjoying this experience on Zoom anyway, so that's a really, really cool thing. So what we're going to be going through today is in this first session, we're going to be talking about marketing our amazing products, our amazing Elite Health range of products. So we'll start the day with a bit of recognition, and then we'll be turning over to the lovely Catherine Brooke McKenzie, who's going to see if we've got the guts to be healthy, which I love that. We're going to have some lockdown testimonials that team members have been happy to share about people they've helped with their health during this period of time. And then we're going to have a couple of team members talking about marketing our health message and different ways that we can do that. We're then going to have a comfort break around 11ish, depending on how we get along time-wise with this, for around 10 or 15 minutes. So you can stretch your legs away from the laptop and go and get a drink and things like that. And then we'll start on our second hour, which will be about marketing the business. So this, again, we'll start with some recognitions. And then we will have the business opportunity webinar. I'm going to be talking about that. We're going to then talk about, have some testimonials of team members that have joined, having seen the business opportunity webinars, and they're on the call today. And then we're going to be handing over to Simon and a few other team members to talk about how they've been marketing the webinars. So we're going to aim to finish at around about 12:15, give or take 5 minutes or so. So let's start with some recognition. So I will actually need to make sure I enable people to unmute. I'm going to unmute all so that we can do some clapping, because I think, you know, we need a bit of noise on this sort of thing. So this promotion was from Synergy for team members who have been awarded a customer care promotion for looking after customers over the course of the year. And they've achieved cash bonuses. So I'll mute everyone and talk about the qualification criteria in a minute. But can we just give a rousing welcome, a round of applause to our, and I'm going to call the names out because I like to hear people's names, the people who've achieved the tier 1. So we've got Anna Denning, Anna Gill, Debbie Atkins, Emma Barraclough, Helen Finch, Jackie Hodson, Jackie Barnard, Jenny Hott, Kathleen White, Jana Bungeon and Kevin Bungeon, Lee Davis, Paula Ross, Sally Fryer, Sarah Blanchard, Sarah Frayne and Angie Bryan. So I think it's fair to say, well done. Synergy is going to give you a £90 cash bonus for that achievement. Now our tier 2 achievers are Amanda Payton, Andrea Bremner, Jeannie Burgess, Catherine Brooke McKenzie, Liz James, Nick Kenworthy, Zoe Rees. And these lovely ladies and achieved £180 cash bonus from Synergy. So then we have our tier 3 customer care awards, and that goes to Caroline Gillam, Kat Wilson, yay, Helen Foster, Inglis Howard and Polly Tomlinson. Fabulous £270 goes to you guys. And then I think with a bit of a cheer to our tier 4 achiever, Rachel Dobson. Yay! Well done to
Queen of
Rachel.
sales.
So well done, well done. Let me just find that participants list again. So cool. I'm just going to mute all. Right, so I've muted all again, but I just wanted to unmute you all for that because it's worth it, you know, people have achieved stuff. So basically what this is for the new team members, this runs every quarter. It's a static quarter. So this was for January, February and March. And it's now starting a new quarter for April, May and June. And if you have achieved in personal orders and your customer volume between 600 CV to 1,199 CVs, that's in product sales, every month, so at least a minimum of 600 every month for January, February and March, then you will have achieved £90. And then again, you've got the tiers. So the more retailing that is going on in your business, then the bigger the cash bonuses basically. And Rachel, what she has achieved there is over 3,000 CV, or that's almost equivalent to dollars. So over 3,000 CV of product sales in January, February and March. So she's had a lot of elite rebate on that. She's had hand-to-hand customer sales and she's earned an extra £450. So you just want to unmute yourself, Rachel, and tell us how that feels. Does that must feel very good, I would think.
It feels very good, especially at the moment. It's very appreciated. So yes, yeah, it feels good.
Excellent. Well done. Well done. So we start the new quarter in April. So if you're aiming for this tier 1 or any of the tiers, then you would need 600 CV in April. And then you would be all set for tier 1. But some of you might be working to the higher ones. So great start. Retailing is such an important part of the business, as is talking about our amazing products. You know, we've got some phenomenal products, some that, you know, with immune boosting, some energy boosting, some gut health boosting. And I've invited the lovely Catherine Brooke McKenzie. You will have seen her on our team call on Monday. She's got a wonderful way of communicating with things. And Catherine is the owner of the Healthy Gut Clinic, and she does many talks, been doing many in-person talks before the lockdown to the community. And she's going to be sharing her take, especially she's a colonic hydrotherapist, on having the guts to be healthy. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen because we're going to need to switch to Catherine's screen now. So Catherine, you should be able to unmute and you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, right, bear with me. I'm no
technical
wizard.
Everyone's got patience, so don't you worry about a thing.
I'll try hard not to, Kim.
Awesome, we can see that. Everyone else, thumbs up. Can you see that okay? Yes, perfect. Cool. So, yeah, so Catherine, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. I've got Notepad at the hand, so I'm going to hand over this next 15-20 minutes over to you.
Thank you, Kim. Good morning everybody. Aren't we lucky to be able to do this even though we can't meet in person? So yeah, as Kim said, I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about gut health. We've got our amazing microbiome talks that hopefully many of you have been to, but I'm going to be giving a slightly different approach to it today. I'm going to start at the bottom and work up. So I'm going to start off really by talking about health and thinking about what is health? What does it mean? So the World Health Organization gives us this definition, which is one that I like because it makes the distinction between health just not being the absence of disease, but it's also the presence of wellness. And I think that kind of goes along with what we're doing with our products. You see, as we know, our bodies are hardwired to heal. When they're given the right environment to do so, and our products help that to happen. And often, like lots of medical models focus on disease and the problem and the symptoms, but what we're doing is offering something that literally is about supporting health. And I think that that's an important distinction for us. When it comes to health though, did you know this? I wish I'd written that, but I didn't. I don't know who did. I would credit them, but it wasn't me. But I still think it's funny. It makes me laugh every time. And we can't talk about health without mentioning the father of medicine, of course, Hippocrates, who even back in the day was saying that all disease begins in the gut. Now, as Kim said in the introduction, I run a gut health clinic in Chippenham in Wiltshire. I have a degree in traditional 5-element acupuncture, even though I don't practice anymore, and I'm a qualified colon hydrotherapy practitioner, which pretty much means that I've managed to fashion a career from taking other people's crap, which is quite good, really, isn't it? And over the years, because I'm at the sharp end of the digestive process, I have realised that there is a phenomenal amount of wisdom to be gained from paying attention to poo. Now, sadly for you guys, I'm not going to be talking about the little yellow bear that everybody loves. I'm talking about the brown sticky stuff that smells, the stuff that's the source of embarrassment and humiliation and even shame, actually, for many, many people. It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it, and I thought it might as well be me. Now, there really should be no excuses for anybody to be not having a poo at least once a day. Now, unfortunately, that's not the case for many people. Everybody should be doing it, but not that many people are. I've seen clients in the clinic who've come in, this will surprise you, they've actually had a poo once a month or sometimes longer. And when you think that we've been in lockdown now for coming up for 5 weeks, I think, they might not have had a bowel movement for the duration. Now, those cases are in the extreme, I'll grant you, but it's not uncommon for us to see people who have a poo once a fortnight, once every 10 days, once a week, or even once every 3 days. And they've been using that pattern, or that pattern's been part of their life for, I don't know, 20, 30 years. Can you imagine the state of their insides, what's happening in terms of like toxins and pollutants and everything else, because they're just not ridding themselves of their body's waste. Now, these people aren't idiots. They will have been to the GP and likely as not been told, oh, you know, don't worry about that. That's just part of your natural rhythm. It really shouldn't be part of anybody's natural rhythm. And I don't know where or why we have managed to normalize a dysfunctional bowel. I mean, we wouldn't accept not having a pee for 2 days and think that was okay. We wouldn't not sleep for a week and expect to still be functioning on you know, firing on all our cylinders. We just wouldn't. But for some reason, and I think it's largely down to the fact that we're so dissociated from our gut functions, we've come to accept that one poo every 3 to 4 days is okay, when it really very much isn't. So if that's happening for actually you or any of your customers or clients, then you need to start getting them to pay attention a little bit more, because there is nothing on the planet that moves that will thrive if it's not getting rid of its waste products. Now, I don't know if you've ever stuck a banana up a car's exhaust pipe. It doesn't have to be a banana, it could be a potato. It's not fruit or vegetable specific. But if you have, then you'll know what happens very quickly, and it's the engine. The engine stalls, and it stalls because it's swamped by its own pollution. And so it is with our bodies. It's just that because our bodies are masters of adaptation, they find a way of kind of keeping us moving, even though it's struggling to deal with the pollutants and toxins that are going around its system. So do try to keep your tailpipe free from bananas. At the moment, sorry, I can just see Kim laughing. I can't hear anyone, I can just see you.
We're definitely laughing. We're definitely laughing.
Good. I'm trying to keep it not too bad, since we've probably not long had our breakfast. And at the moment, okay, we're all very focused on the NHS. It's you know, because of the coronavirus, we're doing our best to protect it, and we can either be part of its problem or part of its solution. When you look at this statistic, this on the left, this is a shocker. This study was conducted by a company called Coloplast. It's 5 years old, I'll grant you, but it was quite a big study, so I imagine they can't do it very frequently. And this figure was arrived at as a result of people being admitted to hospital with constipation as a main complaint, and for prescription medications to combat it. So that's a phenomenal amount of money. that I'm sure the NHS could use in a much better direction. This doesn't even account for the stuff that we're buying over the counter meds, Dulcolax and Dulcoes and Sanacot and all of that kind of stuff. But £247 million is quite a lot of money. And also, we have studies that confirm the influence of constipation on the creation of bowel cancers. Now, I don't want to be flippant about cancer, but if there is a good one to have, then it's probably going to be bowel cancer, because if you can catch it early enough, then it's often can be treated with great success. But when it's not caught early enough, it's usually because people have not been paying attention. They don't know what's going on with their bowels. And perhaps they're uncomfortable or embarrassed, too embarrassed to even admit that or seek help. But really, please don't die from embarrassment. It's a difficult subject. Nobody wants to talk about it. I found a study in Psychology, I think it was Psychology Today magazine, some psychology magazine, that said that the great British public considers the flush toilet to be the 9th greatest invention of all time. And that's one ahead of the combustion engine. And toilet paper was ranked at number 22, and that was considered more important to us than email and trains and, get this ladies, shoes. And at number 62 was the nappy, and that was 7 points ahead of sliced bread, which of course everybody knows is the best thing since sliced bread. So despite our reticence to talk about the subject, it would seem that bowels and things do play on our minds, and we've had further proof recently, haven't we, with with the coronavirus, when everybody went nuts and started buying up toilet paper, when it doesn't seem to be connected to it whatsoever. So why am I banging on about all of this? Well, it's kind of like, what can we do with our business to help? Now, I want to talk a little bit about an amazing tool that we have. For those who have been in the business a while, you'll know all about it already, but it's this. This is the lifestyle analysis. Which is a load of questions that we ask people before we set them up on the Purify program. And there's one question in there, which some of you may dread as you approach it, and it's the irregular or infrequent bowel activity. Now, we can gain a lot of information if we can just have a bit of courage, guts, to explore that a little bit with our customers. So you don't have to go into too much detail, but if we can just ask them, when we're asking that question, irregular or infrequent, what does that really mean? So somebody might say yes to that, and they might just have a poo every other day or something, but they might also be going once a fortnight. And there's real information there if we can just explore it a little bit more. And also if somebody's going 7 times a day, which sometimes people find is quite amusing for some reason, I mean, that would give us an indication of a nutrient uptake problem, because the digestive transit is too fast. And even if they answer no, it still might be worth exploring, because, again, going back to what I said earlier, some people just think it's normal to go once a week, and it really, really isn't. And all of that information points to a significant imbalance in a microbiome, which of course we can help with the Purify program. Now, if you do find it a little bit uncomfortable to talk to people about this, you can get a copy of this. This is the Bristol stool chart. I don't know if you've heard of it. It was something constructed in 1997 by a couple of consultants in the Bristol Royal Infirmary. That's hence its name, not because Bristol's a crappy place to live. I can say that because I grew up there, and it's not. And it's a tool by which you can, like people in hospital, get their stool functions, their bowel functions measured, so that people that are caring for them know whether or not that person's been, like, has Mr. Brown had a number 2? Probably. So the person coming on is taking care of them next knows whether they've emptied their bowel or not. But it's still pretty grim, isn't it, asking somebody to point to a turd on a piece of paper? So what I do instead is offer them this, and do it chocolate style. So this is twofold. Sorry, I've just seen Kat. Stop giggling. I said this is twofold. So you can still obviously point to the turd, or you could describe yourself in terms of a Malteser or a ripple. And what you really want to be aiming for is the ripple, because that's the gold standard of poo. Toffee crisp, not too bad, but you probably need to drink a little bit more water. Now, what was unknown to these two consultants in the BRI was the 8th component, which we all know about now, which is this, the purified poo. And it's worth mentioning this to your people when you set them up, because it does become a bit of a shock when that first one comes through. So what I'm kind of hoping to do is to sort of give you some sort of tools really about how you can talk to your customers about this subject, which is sometimes difficult. And one of the ways I do that is to use metaphors and get them to connect a little bit more with what's going on inside their bodies, because we use the term gut without really knowing what it is. And you know, the pictures of all our internal gut bins aren't very flattering. So what I use is the idea that our gut is like a hose pipe from our mouth to our anus, and it's one that different that pipe is literally, it's just one pipe from the start to the finish. And sometimes it's larger in circumference, sometimes it's narrower, sometimes it's kind of bumpy, but it is just one path all the way through your body. And you get people to think about when they're chewing their food, they're swallowing it, it's kind of going into that hose pipe. And we've all heard the term, you are what you eat, but as we very well know, that's only half of the story, because it's actually you are what you absorb. And the quality and efficiency with which you absorb what you're swallowing is really down to your microbiome. So if we look at the donut, which is not what Kat Wilton suggested somebody's bottom, I'm just going to say that to embarrass her. It's like a cross section of the hose pipe really. And if you think about the inside of that ring donut, that's the membrane through which you're going to be absorbing your nutrients. Okay. As we all know, your microbiome has a whole host of influences, but I try to introduce it in ways that are relevant to people, rather than using medical terms and stuff like that, which can be intimidating and overwhelming. Just use terms that they can relate to. Most people have heard of these things. They might not know what they are, but they've heard of them. And as we know, we know what the microbiome is, so do remember to explain what it is, because one of my friends said it sounds like a new biological washing powder, which of course it's not. So we've seen this slide in the microbiome talks. It's it's a really good one. It says just how phenomenal it is that we are only 10% human. There's all these different species, and probably as yet there are further ones undiscovered, I would imagine. And it weighs up to 4 kilos. If you've not read Alana Cullen's 10% Human book, I would recommend it because it's extraordinary. And she makes mention in that book that by the time we die, we will have been host to the equivalent weight of 5 African elephants worth of bacteria, which is amazing. And it's really important that we get the balance in there right. So another simple way of explaining it to our customers is it's really just good guys and bad guys. So I love this slide. It's like tummy buddies, tummy baddies. And what we're always trying to do is make sure that we've got more goodies than baddies. There are always going to be bad guys. That's just life, isn't it? And they're always going to be going in there. But as long as we've got enough good guys in there to fight the good fight, then we're going to be okay. If we don't, going back to that list, as we know, like one of the fundamental functions of a healthy microbiome is to maintain the integrity of the gut wall. And this is again another metaphor that I use. So that gut wall, going back to the inside of that donut, is a bit like a tea bag. So when we make a cup of tea, we pour the hot water on and we want the flavor of the tea to come out, but we certainly don't want the tea leaves coming into our drink because it's going to ruin it, yeah? And so one of the jobs of the good gut bacteria is to make sure the perforations in our gut tea bag are kept the same size, so that what we're doing is absorbing the nutrients that we want, but leaving all the bad stuff inside our hose pipe for evacuation further down. And this slide we used to give it a description really of the leaky gut syndrome. So towards the left-hand side, we've got the cells of the gut wall, like the perforations of our tea bag, which are perfectly normal and they're tight together, so they're only allowing tea flavor through. And the ones on the right-hand side, those perforations have got bigger, and what we've got then is the tea leaves infiltrating our drink or our bloodstream. And what this does essentially is, so we use those tea leaves as like, you know, bad guys. We've got toxins and pollutants and even undigested food that's coming into our bloodstream. And what that's doing is triggering an immune response. And the example I use here is a bit like, it's a bit like your fortress really. And you've got, when those perforations of your tea bag get too big, then what you're doing, you're being infiltrated by baddies into your bloodstream. And what your body does is sends out, like, in a sense, like the cheapest form of defense is the front line, which I always think of as being archers. So it sends out the archers to manage the bad guy that's coming into the system. But when you've got leaky gut, what you've got is an infiltration that's so huge, your archers are running out of arrows, and you can't kind of make enough arrows to keep them well stocked. So what your body then does when you run out of archers that are functional, it sends in the cannons. And of course, when it's being infiltrated so much, there's just so many people invading your fortress, you're going to run out of cannons as well. And that's what's happening then with systemic inflammation. Your body's inflammation levels are increasing, and you're kind of on your way to not being able to defend yourself anymore, and your immune response is compromised. So I think that's quite a helpful way of talking to customers about that. So what you want, you see, this because it's such an important part of your immune system, your gut health. If you're not paying attention to your gut health, you're going to have problems. This is who you want fighting your immune battles for you. And if you're not taking care of it, this is going to be who you end up with. Yeah, bless. Oh dear, it just makes me think, whenever I see Godfrey, I was always afraid that he wasn't actually going to make it to the end of the episode. It was almost stressful, wasn't it? Because he was so frail. Bless him. Anyway, I'm nearly done. So this is a neuron. You have around about 200 million of these in your gut. It's said to be your enteric nervous system. It's said to be the entire capacity of an entire cat's brain. And cats are smart, right? Look at that one. Let's do my social media. So, and again, we come back to that, the information, when our gut microbiome is balanced and healthy, and there are more goodies than baddies, then we're producing the right hormones, the right neurotransmitters, and the information, the feedback loop really that goes from our gut brain to our head brain is working. And we're getting, the right amount of information. And that's all really about essentially keeping us safe and well. And when our gut instincts are on point, we will be able to live a much more engaged and kind of courageous life. We know with some of the hormones how the gut microbiome influences serotonin, which keeps us happy, and dopamine and noradrenaline, which keep us motivated, and GABA hormone, which keeps us calm. So when our gut bacteria are all out of kilter, then we don't have this relationship that we should have with it. We're getting faulty information all the time, and our gut instincts aren't as effective for us as they could be. When it's all doing what it should be, it really is like having a guardian angel in your gut, and it will never, I know this sounds like a joke, but it'll never give you a bum steer. It just can't. It's not capable of doing that. I'm nearly done here. It's my last slide actually, but one thing before I go, it might surprise you to know that the first thing that's formed in a developing fetus in the womb is not what you might think, which might be one of the major organs like the brain or the heart or the lungs or something. It is, in fact, the anus, which means that at some point in our lives, all of us were just an arsehole. And who doesn't know someone who never developed past that stage, right? But seriously, when you think about that, so it's like the anus is the first thing that's formed, and then the gut tube grows from the anus, and everything else in that fetus develops through the gut tube. It makes you realize that just how fundamental gut health is to our existence and our ability to live a happy, engaged, and healthy life. And that's me. Thank you very much.
Oh, guys, do you want to just unmute and give Catherine a round of applause?
Best.
Oh, well done. That was
Incredible. Thank you so much. Amazing.
Doesn't that talk not need to go on the road?
Yeah, totally.
Yes, that does need to go on the road, and not just on the road.
Catherine, I'm gonna buy you a Winnebago, and then you can go all across the UK and deliver that everywhere.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome, well done.
Absolutely superb.
And full of value, as well as laughs.
Yeah.
Giggles.
And
Sweet and to the point.
I love Hillary's comment that says that's just put her off chocolate, and quite frankly, just that alone has been worth this whole morning
I'm
session.
going to hold that thought for lockdown, obviously. I'm going to really hold that thought.
Yeah. Eating somebody, you think you're eating Maltesers, but not really. You're eating somebody's rabbit droppings.
Oh, yes.
Am I weird in that I don't have a problem talking about poo? And Catherine,
Either. I don't either.
No,
I
fine.
don't, that's all right then.
either. I don't.
May I ask a question, please?
Yeah, of course.
What is the optimum for people to poo?
Well, I would say a minimum of once a day, and if you go more than that, if you talk about babies, when you feed a baby, a poo comes out. It's like a little machine, isn't it? But that's really, I think, before because they're kind of largely unconscious. That sort of conscious awareness hasn't come in, so it just makes you realise that the part that psychology plays in our bowel function as we get older. So we get baggage and that kind of stuff, which influences our bowel habits as well. But babies don't really have that much going on, do they? I mean, they might have past lives and stuff. But I would say in Chinese medicine, there's a 2-hour slot in for each of the major organs to perform its function optimally. And for the large intestine, that's between 5 and 7 in the morning. Best time for a poo.
I now clock it every time I go. I was like, oh, I'm in Catherine's window.
The trouble is, I don't wake up until 8.
Well, Simon, then you need to get up an hour earlier.
You're doomed, Simon.
Doomed.
Crap, Simon, I don't either.
Okay, guys. Now,
Festering in
listen, can I just say that if there's any more questions on any of the subjects, if you put them in the chat box, then what we'll do is at the very end of the second session, we'll go back and see if we can find any questions. But if people want to hop off, then they can hop off, and those that want to stay because they've got other questions, then we can spend time answering those, but not delay.
Can I just ask if Catherine would make available the chocolate poo chart?
Yes, please.
Please.
The chocolate poo chart, yeah. Definitely. Okay, so what an amazing talk that was, Catherine, and we're extremely grateful. People have actually, during this lockdown period, have actually really helped people, because I think there's a lot more people that are wanting to look at their health right now. Certainly some people might not have been in the zone to start with, and I've come across quite a few friends. I was chatting to a friend just the other day who was saying, Kim, I need your gut stuff. I have eaten so much crap for the last few weeks. I'm feeling terrible. So, maybe there's more and more people that are going to start thinking about this even more so now. So with that, Julia, I know you might have your little one in the background there because you're on your own with your little one, but are you able to unmute and share the story of, I think it was your, who was it you was helping? Your mum, was it, Julia?
Yeah, it was my mum. Sorry, you can hear minions in the background and my little minion that's here too. Yeah, basically we both started the Be Free because I can't do the gut reset yet because I'm still breastfeeding. But we did it at the beginning with my mum. I don't know if you can see that. So that's the first one. And it's been around 2 months, and we just had a little catch up. We had a chat first before we did this, and she said, yeah, I am noticing some differences. And then when we did this, she was like, oh my goodness. And I think for her, and she's the most, you just don't get her on these things. And I think because she knows I won't invest in something unless I know it's, that's where it's at, that's good. She went, yeah, I'll give it a whirl. But she said she's noticed that her skin's improved. Her hair's falling out less, which is what I've noticed in myself. But for her, she still gets painful hands. But to notice in her feet, because she's got arthritis, when she's walking, they're not as painful after. That's so significant. And actually, she said she still wakes up and starts off a little bit achy, but she's not aching as much. She is seeing improvements, so she's happy to continue to see where it goes, because she understands that it takes a bit of time. So, and her sleeping's improved and her mood's been better, and that's just in 2 months.
2 months, and that's on the V3.
Yeah.
You were saying. And how old is your mum, Julia?
She's, I can't remember.
Approx.
I think she's 65, maybe.
So about 65. So she was having all these aches and pains, and they've started to improve. You're saying her legs, her ankles, particularly.
Yeah, and her feet, and she does suffer, but she's feeling that's improved. So, and my mum wouldn't normally notice things like that, and that's why I think it's important to do this, because you do, when you're feeling well, you forget that you were that bad. So I think to make sure that we're doing good questionnaires. My head's gone. I didn't sleep well last night. She kept me up all night. So I can't find my words. So that we're doing our consultations, and they are thorough. And this is brilliant, because if you're a visual person, which I'm quite a visual person, to be able to see it on a chart like that as well, and then you're asking the questions again, they go, oh yeah, but actually no, that is I'd forgotten about that, but yeah, I have noticed now that I can walk further and it's not hurting as much, and I can walk for longer and things like that. So, or just that general well-being. So yeah, sorry, I've rattled on enough, haven't I?
No, you've done perfectly, thank you. And and so just to be clear to everyone, that was with the V3, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And because sometimes people think to use this chart, just for Purify, but what it reminds us, Julia, very nicely, is that you can use it just as easily for the V3 as well. Or any of the products, actually, even just Pro-Arginine. But I really appreciate you sharing that, because actually I think what you said was so true. When people feel better, they can sometimes forget. It becomes their new norm. Like we're in lockdown, it's our new norm at the minute, so we're kind of like getting in the zone, and people can forget what life was like, and that's what that chart reminds them of, doesn't it? So and again, like you said, it's not the end of her health journey by any means, but it's about quality of life. Everything that we do is quality of life, and her quality of life, step by step, is improving, even just not having pain in your legs, or your ankles. So, well, thank you so much. And your little one was she was good as gold, wasn't she? Bless her. So well done. And we've got another success story, Purify. So that was a V3 one that I wanted to share, because it's, not everybody is ready to do a 21-day program right now. Some people are. Simon and I are on day 4 today, so we're doing it ourselves. No, day 5 actually, day 5 today. But people can do just as well with a V3 if they're not ready for Purify. But for those that are, so I would like to have Brett and Gemma on mute. I'm not sure which one of you guys are going to speak, or both. But I believe, was it your Gemma's mother, was it? That was, you helped with Purify?
Yeah, it was Gemma's mum. We've been trying for a couple of months really to get her on it, because both myself and Gemma did it when we first started with Synergy. We saw the massive benefits that you get from it. We tried to convince her mum Barbara to do it, but she wasn't having it. She had a big sort of addiction to cups of tea. She's a cleaner, so she was going to people's houses every day, multiple houses, and the first thing that she got asked was, do you want to brew? And so she was going between 10 and 15 cups of tea a day.
10 and 15 cups of tea?
Yeah, so she was quite heavily into her tea. She had been for many years. She was conscious that she wouldn't be able to kick the habit and stop it completely. So we'd said to her, we'll just try cutting down for a week before you start. And she was a bit dubious. She said she also enjoyed going to the cake shop as well on her way back from work, so that was another thing. She didn't have any massive underlying conditions that needed sorting out, but it was just things that she thought was the norm. Dark circles under her eyes, dull looking skin. She was putting weight on. She was lacking energy now and again. And when the lockdown started, we sort of had another chat to her and said, this is the best time for you to do it, because you're not going to all these customers' houses. So it's an ideal time for you. Managed to convince her to do it. By day 3, she was off the tea, off the cakes and stuff. She loved it. She's not looked back since. still 2 weeks after she's finished the cleanse now, until a couple of days ago she hadn't had a brew, and she tried one and she hated it. She had to chuck it away. She couldn't drink it.
Interesting how much your taste buds change, isn't it? And what you think you like, your body knows really, but we sort of we drown our own taste buds out by forcing ourselves until we become numb to it.
That's it.
And then you remove it and your body's like, actually, I just don't want that. So tell me, what kind of benefits did she experience? So what sort of changes did she have?
She's lost 1/2 stone. Now she has been through the menopause, and she was gradually increasing weight, which you could see it was the average all around the middle kind of thing. Again, I think it was sugar related. She was obsessed with sugar. So she's lost 1/2 stone. She's lost 10.5 inches overall, and it's just completely changed the way she's eating. She's cut her carbs out. She started to introduce them back slowly, but again, nowhere near as much as she was. And the main thing I've seen is the colour of her skin. She was quite a grey, paley colour, and now she's glowing when you look at her. She was a little bit anxious. She's never been kind of like a depressed kind of person, my mum, but the anxiety was kicking in, and that's completely gone. She was always, I used to call her a buzzy bee. She was always buzzing around the place. She couldn't sit still. She was always anxious. She always wanted to do stuff. And obviously with the lockdown, I was expecting her to really, really struggle. And she's not. She's completely chilled out. She's not bothered. You know, she's really calm. So I've seen a huge difference in that. Yeah, just a completely different person, really. So and I just like the fact that she's carrying on with that lifestyle change.
She's enjoyed the food that she's been eating, and it's not been a challenge for her or a chore to eat these foods, and she's eating and drinking that way as well. She's just on peppermint tea now instead of the normal tea that she was drinking.
Brilliant. Well, I think thank you so much for sharing, guys. And certainly anxiety is a big factor sometimes generally, but in this situation there can be a lot more anxiety about, can't there, in terms of people's worrying about jobs, or even we had a conversation about this the other day, didn't we? People worrying about going back to work because they realised they didn't like the job, you know. So there's all different layers of anxiety in society right now, and even people who wouldn't normally feel anxious potentially feeling anxious. So you know, that's going to have an impact on their gut health, so we can do something about that. So well, I'm glad to hear your mum's chilled out and enjoying her lockdown experience to some degree at least, guys. So thank you so much for sharing that. And it really does show that now is a good time, because like you said, she was busy seeing customers, drinking tea, eating cakes. That was her routine. And actually now her routine is this. It's actually easier, not more difficult. So we can put our own obstacles in our own way, can't we, if we choose to. So I'm glad she chose the time to do it. Thanks so much. Thank you so much. So with that, I hope that's inspired you from the B3 wise or the Purify wise to think about some people that might want our help. And with that, we are going to turn to 3 ladies, and I think I will stop sharing the screen so we might be able to see the 3 ladies better. But some of the team have been doing online, well, we've always had team members doing in-person talks. Liz James here has done them, Nicola Hawk, Jackie Hodson, many, including these ladies here, including myself, Helen Fetz and Marjorie, so many. But of course we can't be doing these in-person talks anymore for the time being. Hopefully we'll get back to that later on in the year. But a lot more people are switching to learning online. It's certainly become an easier model for people to tune into, and Caroline and Kat and Julia have certainly embraced this opportunity to continue to educate, but doing it online. So I'm going to hand over 15 minutes now to these lovely 3 ladies to talk about their experience and give us some tips and ideas. So over to you.
Julia's going first. Hi everyone. Yeah, we thought because of it difficult, we sort of put it into 3 parts, and I'll be kicking off. And basically, what we'll just want to have a quick look at is what would be the motivation? Why do we even do those talks? You know, why do we do any talk, never mind just a gut talk? And then the question is, who's doing it? And then we'll look quickly into how do we get the guests to it? Obviously then what I would call the execution of the talk, you know, what is the actual talk, what's happening? So I'll be covering the first part. The question is, what is actually the reason for those talks? Why do we do them? Why can we not just send out a video link? Why can we not just send them a talk to them? Now, I think one of the biggest benefits of the health talks is the power of third. And just a quick reminder for those who are not too aware of what the power of third means, it's basically, if you talk to your prospects, you have an emotional relationship to them. And those prospects will not ask you all the questions they might have and not share all the worries because they don't want to offend you or they don't want to put you out of your comfort zone because you might not know the answer. So using any person, any tool, any video, or even meetings and talks to deliver those as like expertise and saying, well, there's an expert talking, there's someone who's done it for so long, you know, any question you have, that's the best location or that's the best source, you know, again, it could be a book, etc., but we're talking about the talks here now, you know. So in this talk you will get everything answered really, and we've got people who've doing this. So use that power of third, because by edifying someone else or some other tool as an expert, then that person's or that talk's reason for being is to deliver, to answer all the questions. So you're really allowing your prospect to get the full picture in a very, very comfortable way and a very open way. And so you've potentially got a new customer then out of it, or even a team member. But most importantly as well, you know, you've allowed this person to make a fully informed decision and really get all the questions answered. And I think this is a big thing about those talks. The other thing is, in those talks, when you can get people together, it creates energy. It creates momentum in the room. And I think this energy of being, oh, I'm not on my own. There are actually other people who are doing it. There are other people interested. Has two effects. One effect is you feel comfortable because, okay, you're not alone. But also what you can create over time the sort of the urgency of it. So when I advertised my talks for the first time, people were saying when I said in the shop, you know, can I put a poster up here? So yeah, put it up, love. Then second time you go and they're like, oh, is it, did you not do one like before? And I said, yeah, what is it then? Yeah, I said, well, just come along. And then the third time you go around, oh, is it, are people going to that? What is it? You know, and they're leaning forward, can I come? So all of a sudden, by being able to say, you know, you're doing it, and that's very important with those talks, have this consistency. If you only get one or two, you know, we've all had it, only one or two people, two guests in the talk, you did all this planning, you did all this weehaw, and then there sits like one person, you think, really? But you know, it's the importance is that you can advertise and then, like, you know, maybe this person in the shop doesn't come the third time, but later the fourth or the fifth time they go like, hang on, I'm losing it here, people are going, I need to know, you know, and they start getting interested in it. So these talks, and if we can work as a team together and can say there's a talk here, talk there, there's a talk up and down the country, that becomes a big thing. And everybody wants to know about the big thing and what's important. Yeah. So the more talks we can put out there, we will all benefit from it. Now, then there's the last question quickly. So who's going to do the talks? Do you have to do them? Yeah. No. We've got enough people in the team. Kim just said, it's Kim, it's Liz, it's Nicola, it's myself, you know, Catherine, it's Caroline. I mean, there's so many team members who've done lots and lots of these talks. And that's a good thing as well, because everybody has a slightly different style. As we just heard today, absolutely loved it, Catherine, and we need to have a chat about this. You know, and it's so important to have some fresh wind in sometimes as well, because literally no wind. But you know, it's important because when you speak to your prospect or people know you, then you will have a certain theme, a certain way of explaining things. And sometimes it's just really good to hear things with other words. another a person's words. Yeah, or just, you know, rather than coming from right to left, which you might always do, someone else goes from left to right, and people go like, oh, actually, no, I get it. You know, so might not be you, it might just be that because people are different. So it's a massive opportunity. So your choices are, use the people that are doing the talks and invite to those talks. You won't do your prospects any harm, because everyone who's doing it will definitely be a great power of third, and if anything, you know, will enable your prospect to make better choices. The second thing is, if you want to do a talk yourself, go for it, you know, or maybe take over part, do it with someone who's experienced, and have a part for starters to get used to it. It's a very different thing doing these talks on camera and rather than doing it live. You know, live I find easy peasy, on camera I'm sitting there, you know, might not look like this, but that's what it's like, trust me. So, you know, and if you really don't want to talk yourself, ask one of us, say, you know, could I arrange something with you? Would you do it for me? And more than happy to. Let's just work together as a team. So the next thing is then, I think, how do we get people to those talks? And with that, I'm handing over to Caroline.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Julia. So yeah, inviting people. So what it made me do is look at what I do to invite people, because I actually know that when I invite people that they will come to that talk. So when I was thinking about it, it's all about being authentic with your invitation. So people can spot a salesperson a mile off and actually hate to be sold to. However, what they do like is to be offered a solution for a problem or issue that they already have, so long as you are actually being genuinely trying to help them. So people talk about being of service to people. I personally hate that saying, because I can't even serve up my tea on a plate. They have to help themselves. But what I do is I offer a vehicle to help that person improve their health. And I know that without a shadow of a doubt that will help them. So if they choose to take me up on that, that's great. And if they don't, that's fine too, because that is actually their journey. And I actually know that they will eventually anyway. So what I do when I invite someone is I always do a personal invite. I don't just post something on Facebook, because that just doesn't work. And yes, it takes more time and effort, but you can guarantee that if you've made that extra effort to text them personally, they will make the effort to reply yes or no. So what I do is I think about the person that I'm sending the invite to. So I picture them in the head, so I've already got that connection there with them. And then I think what the gut health talk how the gut health talk would benefit them. So do they have hormonal issues? Do they have anxiety, sleep, IBS, things like that? And then I would actually fit the invite, word the invite to fit them. I personally only send the invite out a day or so before, and sometimes even 20 minutes before. And I know I can actually get away with that because people know that I am always last minute. So they wouldn't think that they were an afterthought if I sent them 10 minutes before a talk. However, you have to be authentic to who you are. So if you are a super organized person that sends things out weeks before, then make sure you do that as well. So that A, you're not stressing about it, but B, people know you for who you are. So they know that is how you invite people. So if you only sent the invite out that day, they maybe would think they were an afterthought and that other people had already turned you down. I would also make sure you invite them again the actual day just to remind them. So another way is to actually hook into conversations. So I've just started doing this on Facebook. So I've just joined like menopause groups because I have a lot of people in my bone clinic that are going through the menopause. So I wanted to figure out what their issues were. So for instance, somebody put on a different group, a menopause group, about having lack of sleep and that lack of sleep causing their anxiety to go through the roof. So at this point, I kind of just made a comment saying, did you realize that 70% of your hormones are produced in your gut, you know, including serotonin, your happy hormone, and melatonin, which is obviously a sleep hormone. And then I looked at where they're from. So I did a little bit of research, a little bit of stalking, and they're actually from California. So then I kind of put, well, in the UK, we've seen so many improvements in anxiety and sleep just by helping to reset your gut, which then led me on to, I'm actually doing a gut health talk on Tuesday. If you're interested, no idea what the time will be over there, but if you're interested, message me privately and I will send you the link. And both those two people that I did that, I've actually asked for the link. So that is kind of how I go about it. Just be totally authentic. Don't think too much about it and keep it short. What I'd also advise is that all team members attend all different talks, because we all have our own style of presentation and presenter, and then you can actually see what presenter and what style would actually fit your client. So for instance, if I had someone that was medical or scientific, there's no way I'd invite them to one of my talks. However, I would definitely send them to Julia's talk, as what Julia doesn't know isn't worth knowing at all. And also, don't be attached with the outcome, about the outcome. If you are too attached to that person, then send them to somebody else's talk as well. So that's how I invite. Thank you. And over to Kat.
Thank you, Caroline. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about how you might get started doing your own small talks. So, you can start just by doing a talk to 2 of your friends, or if you want to practice, we could maybe do some practice sessions. But I just want to talk you through how I got started. So that picture that Kim showed at the beginning, there's a little slide of me up there standing up with a microphone. That, apart from the time that Liz James lost her voice the day before a talk and I had to do it, which was the most terrifying experience of my life, and I read from a script. That was the first time I stood up and spoken in public and felt comfortable. So I think around about the age of, I think it was about 25, I had to stand up and present my dissertation at the end of my degree course. And it was the most nerve-wracking experience of my life, and I vowed on that day I would never do public speaking again. And I actually kept that vow until I joined Synergy. Throughout the entirety of my corporate career, I never stood up and spoke in front of anybody. So it was a big deal for me to do this. And what I did was basically, I went along to Liz used to do all of my talks. I just used to keep saying, Liz, do my talks, which she happily did. But at some point you go, I'm going to have to do this myself someday. So I went I was at one of Liz's talks and I recorded it. I recorded her entire talk, and then I transcribed it. I typed it all up, and I looked at the information, and I kind of thought about what bits of this information I could remember myself, which bits came a little bit easily. And I started walking around the house with my piece of paper talking to myself. And I did this for weeks. So, you see somebody standing up giving a talk, like Catherine's done today. She did an absolutely fabulous job, and makes me realise I need to up my game again now. There's always another step to take. But I know Catherine also wasn't comfortable speaking at one point in time and spent a lot of time and work on herself to do that. So that's one way to do it, is to kind of like listen to somebody's talk, type it up, and then start practicing it yourself. And what it will do is it really solidifies your information, because you can hear somebody else give the information, and then when you come to speak to somebody else about it, that information might not necessarily be at the tip of your tongue. But actually, if you've taken time to really learn some facts, which you would have to do when you're giving a talk, then it makes it actually easier to speak to people on a one-to-one basis as well. So even if you don't ever actually get round to being brave enough to step up in front of a room full of people, then going through the process is still very valuable anyway to solidify your knowledge. And I'm actually the opposite of Julia. I find doing them online like this a lot easier, because you can always have a little crib sheet around your laptop, post-it notes stuck up, piece of paper on your lap, on your keyboard. Whereas when you're standing in front of people and they can see you shaking and sweating, then it's a little bit less attractive. And I always have sweaty armpits when I've got sweaty armpits right now. So, don't worry about those things. We're all really fearful when we're doing these things. We all have anxiety over it. We all have a bit of kind of like, a wobble, but it's okay. You can hide it. You can hide it pretty well. And the more you do it, the more confident you get as well. So I think, you learn by doing it and refining it. So I am inspired by Catherine this morning to start refining again. So thanks for that, Catherine. And I think I'm done.
Thank you so much. Gosh, ladies, can we give them, like, these three ladies, a massive round of applause? Do you want to unmute? Woo! Thank you so much. Gosh, brilliant. That was like, I think Julia calls it her WhatsApp powerhouse chat. That was like 15 minutes of powerhouse chat, that was, with some super nuggets from all three of you. And I hope that inspires you really to, you know, to come on different people's talks and see the different styles and the different information you're going to get. Record them if you think there's something you might want to do yourself, so you can transcribe and learn. And, you know, as Julie was saying at the start, use these talks as the power of the third, you know, meaning get your people in front of somebody else, because sometimes it's the easiest way to communicate our message if you didn't want to have them on your own talk. So really, really appreciate Julia, Caroline and Kat for their sharing their knowledge. And also I really appreciate you ladies for opening up your talks for the whole team to use. I think that's a really wonderful gift that you have provided. And actually, I just want to say on that note that Caroline's next talk is, he's like, oh, yeah, well, I'm sorry, it's out there now. It's on Tuesday the 28th at 7:30 p.m. And I believe it's this exact same Zoom link that you are on today.
And it's going to be awesome.
It will be awesome. But, you know, please don't post the Zoom link on your social media pages. Get people to ask you for the link and personal message the link or WhatsApp the link or email the link, but don't publish the link. So with that, thank you so much, ladies. And actually, look at that. We're dead on time, really. I call that 3 minutes over. I call that dead on time. So we are going to have a comfort break now. I'll leave this on, so you can leave it on if you want to. I'm just going to mute myself and turn my camera off for the moment, and we will be back at 11:15 for tips and techniques on marketing the business side of things. So hope you've enjoyed that first hour. Enjoy your comfort break. Speak to you in a little while. Hope you've all had a nice drink, stretched your legs, done a poo. Now I'm not embarrassed to talk about it.
Who's done a poo?
Are we going to start telling everybody what everybody's been doing? I love it.
Do you mean today or in the last 15 minutes?
Yeah.
In preparation for my talk, I did 2 very healthy ones, I have to say.
I had a very lovely one too, thank you.
Cool. Right, let's crack on, because we have got plenty to cover in this next hour of the presentation. So we're going to be talking about marketing the business. What a fantastic, that first hour. I cannot believe how quickly that hour flew by. So, oh, I've never had so much fun on Zoom. It was absolutely brilliant. And loved every single speaker that we have had this morning. So hopefully this second session will be just as interesting. But what we're going to do is start off with a bit of recognition, because some people have achieved some amazing things. So this is recognition so we had recognition from the customer point of view, and this is recognition from the team building point of view. So Synergy have a bonus, which is called the monthly mentor bonus. And we've only had one set of recognition for this so far. What happened here was a couple of team members who we're going to applaud in a moment. They sponsored 2 team members in January, and those team members had a continuing qualifying order, which is 120 CV order, in February and in March. And just for doing that, sponsoring 2 and looking after those 2 people, they received an extra £45 cash bonus. Can we unmute ourselves and give a round of applause, please, to Catherine Brooke McKenzie and Rachel Dixon? Well done, guys. Fantastic. Well done, guys. And I'm sure there's more to come as well, because obviously this will happen every month because you know, we're in April, so let's say you sponsor 2 people in April and they were on an authorship order in May and in June. You also, any team members on here would be qualifying for that order. So it's about, you know, aiming to sponsor 2 people a month and helping those business people continue with their business. Now, if we do that, there are more cash bonuses on offer, because this business builder bonus for the new team members and the guests we've got on the call today is an investment from the upline team, from Simon and I's personal pocket and a few other members of our upline team. We are really wanting to help people get lots of cash in this year. And so if you sponsor 2 people who are on that qualifying order of 120 CV for 1 month, not 2 months, just for 1 month, you get an extra £60. And if you've sponsored 4 people in a month who are on a qualifying order the following month, you get an extra £120. And this is not coming from Synergy, this is coming from the upline team. So can we just give a round of applause? Jackie Hosson's achieved it for February. Catherine Brooke McKenzie, January, Liz James, January, and Rachel Dawson, January and February. Extra 60 quid in the bank. Well, that's, you know, that's very, very handy indeed. So if you're a bit confused by what we've just given in the form of these recognitions, then in our Heart to Heart team website for team members, if you log in and you go to resources, you'll see there's a folder called promotions, and you can have a look at these promotions in more detail to understand how you can benefit from them, basically. So now let's have a talk about the business opportunity webinar. So I'm going to need to stop sharing for a moment, because first of all, I've got some questions to ask. So I want to see hands up. I'm going to scroll through the screen. If you have, we've been running these business opportunity presentations for 3 weeks now. Hands up if you have seen it. Can you put your hands up? Can we see who has seen it? We're going to scroll through the pages. Keep your hands up. Almost everybody. Fantastic, fantastic. That's really good. And I know I've had lots of great feedback from you, but I don't mean to embarrass anyone, because what I want to do is just be very encouraging for you to tune in this Wednesday. But if you are happy to be honest, put your hands up if you haven't seen it. I'm putting my hands up just to show you what to do. Put your hands up. There's no one on the front page. Can't see anybody on the second page. Oh yeah, there was one lady on the second page. Thank you, Zoe, for being honest. And there's a few, and Catherine there as well. Fabulous. And probably a few that don't have their webcams on. So I'm just asking that question because what I really want you to be is inspired. That's the thing, is to be inspired. So let's have a look back at these slides again. Okay. So let's have a reminder first. It is every single Wednesday. It is for 35 minutes. The last 3 have been exactly on time. And it's on Zoom, and this is the Zoom ID and password, which of course we do share regularly on WhatsApp and on Facebook. So I can honestly say that in my 9 years of being with Synergy, and it's my 9th anniversary this month, this is the best first look presentation we have ever had, and will make inviting people to see what we're doing so much quicker and easier for you. I'm sure everyone can agree that this, and especially those that have been in the team a long time, Liz is nodding, this is the best we've ever had. And so, you know, the webinar is designed around our core values for team members and guests, for team members to invite their guests. So when I mean by designed, what I mean by that, Simon and I spent a lot of time working out on this webinar, from mind maps to reading books and seeking advice and running it past people. And we've designed it to speak to all types of people and all learning styles, with a male and female voice, video with music, fast-paced yet engaging and kept to time. And it speaks to different personality types. You might recognise these. There are those people who feel very service orientated, they like a supportive environment, they're very caring, very friendly, very nurturing, very considerate people. Then there are the types of people who like facts, they like the science, they like the details, they like a format to follow. Then you have creative types. They very much come from intuition. They love the lifestyle, perhaps, the travel, the teamship, the fun, the engagement of it all. And then you have the people that may be very driven by money, or they might be driven by goals. They might want a high-end lifestyle, and they want to know that there's an easy way to get there. So we've taken into account throughout the webinar, you'll notice these different personality types to aim to speak to the different members of the population. And in just 3 weeks, we've already had excellent feedback from the guests who've attended. So we kind of know that we're on the right track here. So when we think about our core values, what we want to convey is that the team are positive, solution orientated and caring people that work in an atmosphere of encouragement, recognition and collaboration. And I hope that anyone who's seen the video will get a sense of those values that trickles through the entire video. The vision with the weekly webinar is to speed up growth of your business. That is the vision for it. It is to speed up the growth of your business. So we have made it easy for team members, new and old, to invite people to come and see what we're about. And as Caroline said earlier on, you know, not holding on to the outcome, but just being able to get a full and thorough look for 35 minutes of what we're about and seeing if that resonates with them or not, or maybe just not at this time. Our mission is to be one of the fastest growing teams in Synergy. That's the mission, guys. I mean, surely that's what we want, don't we? We don't want to be second. We don't want to be second or third fastest or 10th fastest, do we? Do we want to be the fastest? So what does that mean? That means to have many of you achieve true financial freedom and reach the higher levels of the business in excess of 10 grand a month. And that's Pearl Executive and above. If that's what you want, you may not want that. I would think that right now, even £2,000 a month would make a huge difference to a lot of people. So, you know, if we are a team that work in an atmosphere of collaboration, and our vision is to be one of the fastest growing teams in Synergy, then the mission is very simple. We all need to be on board and working as one. It's a commitment that we all need to make to each other. And that commitment is to turn up every week to the webinar and encourage all your team members to do the same. Now, I recommend that ideally you turn up, you look engaged on your webcam, because guests will scroll through and see who is watching, and they don't know if you're a team member or a guest. But even if you are busy, just be on it, turn your webcam off and get on with what you're doing, but be part of that team and be part of the growing evidence that this is what people are tuning into. And the second part of our mission, so the first part is to turn up every week, and the second part is to have a weekly goal to bring guests and follow through with those guests. Because our message is simple: earn money from home, promote elite health. That's what our message is, and that message is needed by a lot of people. Now, Simon and I will always be transparent with you about how the business is growing, so we can all pull together as one. And so I want to share with you the statistics for the last 3 weeks. So blue is team members, pink is what we believe to know as guests. And we've taken this information from the report that Zoom provides, and we've literally tried to identify who we recognise as team members and who we don't recognise. So on the first one, on the 8th of April, we had 36 team members and 17 guests. And we appreciated that. Obviously, a lot of people checking this out for the first time. But on the second one, we had 37 team members and 33 guests. And some of those guests are on the call today, and I know they've gone on to become team members, and we're truly grateful for that. And then on the third week, the 22nd, we had 50 team members and 36 guests. So what we want to see is a growing trend. We want to see the line going up, and we'll share these statistics again on our next training event, so that we can see this line going up. Because if we have a consistent line going up of team members and guests, then guess what? We're going to start becoming the fastest growing team in Synergy. Yes? We want to just see the upward trajectory. We're not flattening the curve. We are building the curve up and up. That's what we're doing in this team. So let's have a look at the right time. People are worried about their jobs. Okay, my brother's been made redundant. Another woman I spoke to has been made redundant. There are people not even sure what kind of job they're going to have to go back to. Shops and businesses are closing all the time. People are worried about their businesses, self-employed people especially. How are they going to find innovative ways to keep in touch with their client base? Well, you know, we could offer them learning about gut health, the microbiome, DNA nutrigenetics. These are fantastic things that maybe anyone in the health sector could be learning whilst they're not able to see their clients face to face, and then engage with their clients to tell them what it is they're learning about. We have people currently furloughed, and you know, more likely to be interested in a working from home opportunity at the moment. And then of course you've got those people who are anxious about even going back to work because they don't really like what they were doing in the first place. You've got people working, you know, can't work from home, who have got a lot more time on their hands. So maybe they might be interested to learn something new, even if that's being interested to learn about their health right now. You know, there's lots of things that we can offer for people to learn about. And people are interested in helping for their health. They're interested in helping their families, their associates. You know, people are starting to realise that improving their own health is more important than ever before. People are starting to realise they have to take control of that. So to help us, we need a plan of action. And I've been working this plan of action the last couple of weeks, and I've also trained it on a few team calls. But I want to share this with you. So I've observed this pattern in my daily activity, and I found it really easy to stick to, and it's yielding fab results really quick. And it's based on the principle of planning, and then doing, and then the day of the webinar, and then following up. And it's a weekly cycle of activity. And I'm going to break this down for you now. So planning, Saturday. Today is Saturday and Sunday. What you want to do is be deciding how many people would you like to come on to the next week's webinar. You know, I would say 10 is a good number. If you had a list of 10 every week, you'd be going through 40 invites in a month, but it wouldn't feel that way because you're just doing it in a week-by-week basis. But you set your own goals. It's entirely up to you, and maybe a number's popping into your head right now. Write a list of who they are. Don't keep it in your head. And start thinking about how you're going to invite them. Are you going to phone them up? Are you going to send them a message on WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger? Are you going to send them an email? You know, what's going to be the best medium for you to be in touch? And start thinking about what you're going to say. Like one of the ladies before said, what's in it for them? You know, what might they be interested in? So you've got a general statement of opening conversation about, you know, there's lots of easy things to talk about that are in the news right now. You've got why you thought of them. You know, how is it you know them, and why are you thinking of them right now? What are you inviting them to? Be clear on what it is that you're inviting them to. And then a call to action. If I sent you the link to the webinar, is it the sort of thing that you would like to join? If I were you, you know, if I send you this link, would you be joining it on, would you join it on this Wednesday? You know, so you want to get them to request the link and not just send it out random. And then a close, you know, hoping you're all well and keeping well and things like that. So you just want to sort of think about your conversation. You might find that easier than if you've thought about ways in which you want to talk to people, but some people find it very easy and very natural, of course. So Monday is doing. So what do we want to do? We want to plan some social media campaigns. So if you use some potential platforms, you might use Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Simon's going to be talking about some of these in a little while, but I will tell you that Twitter is extremely underused in Synergy by all team members. And I don't know whether anyone uses Twitter, but if they do, they might want to explore that, and then we can get you to report back on how successful Twitter is. But certainly Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn is used. So start to think about your messaging and begin your purposeful invites on your list. So that's the 10 people. So social media might grab attention. You might catch a few people that might be interested, but you also want to begin your purposeful invites. That's the 10 people that you wrote down on your list. Tuesday, ramping up your social media campaign. Maybe start getting the messages out there the day before the webinar that this is on the following day. And you want to continue the invites from your list, because sometimes you might start with a bit of dialogue with someone before you go into an invitation. So you're going to continue the invites from your list. Wednesday is webinar day. So before the webinar, you want to make sure you've completed your planned invites. So those 10 people, you've completed that. And then you want to send a reminder to the people who said yes to you. The ones that said yes, they'd like to come, remind them. And you want some social media excitement today about what it is that you're planning to do this evening. During the webinar, be on it, even if you have no guests. Be part of the team. If you are expecting guests, look to see if you can see them through the webinar. Scroll through the faces, scroll through the names. Can you identify that the person or people that have said they're going to be on are actually on the webinar? After the webinar, a quick phone call to event attendees. So particularly if you have said to the people who've said yes to you, if you've said to them, great, so glad you're coming on the webinar this evening, let's just jump on the call for a quick 5 minutes, or just jump on the phone for a quick 5 minutes after the call, just to get your initial feedback. And then if you've got any questions, we can arrange a call the following day. So if you are going to jump on a call with them after the webinar, keep it really short. They've already given you 35 minutes of their time that evening. They won't want to be spending necessarily another half an hour talking to you that night. Just keep it short, get some feedback, and offer to book in a period of time that's longer on the Thursday or the Friday. If you're not going to pick the phone up, at the very least message all the people. Even if you're not sure, or you're pretty sure they didn't attend but they said they would, just assume they did. Send a little message to say, oh, did you catch the webinar this evening? It was really fantastic. We had 80 plus people on the call, 90 plus people on the call, whatever it is, because they're like, oh, there was 90 plus people on the call. And it also encourages them to message you back, say, oh, I'm so sorry, something happened, I didn't make it, or whatever may have happened. So just to assume they turned up if they said they did, and drop them a little message straight after the webinar. So Thursdays and Fridays is follow-up days. Those are your main follow-up days. So you want to follow up with everyone who attended, get their feedback, see what they're saying about the webinar, see if there's any further course of action to be had there. You want to follow up with everyone who said they would attend but didn't, and see if they want to rebook on to the following webinar. You want to arrange some three-way calls. So those that do seem interested, whether it's just because they have questions, or they might just be interested from a customer point of view, or they might be interested from a business point of view, no problem at all. Our aim is just to answer people's questions, to help them to make an informed decision on if it's something that does resonate with them or it doesn't. That's the whole purpose of a three-way call, is to answer their questions. And then we want to review your week's activities. So keep track. I've got a notepad where I have all my invitations and where I'm at with people. I like to have it on a notepad. You know, I've got every week's webinars, each one's got a separate page, know exactly where I am and who I'm inviting to the next one. So keep track, don't keep it all in your head. And ask yourself, what went well? You know, maybe Friday, what went well this week? And what would I have done differently compared to the week before? So that you can make little changes along the way. And then you're back to the beginning of the cycle again. Plan your next list. Now you want to include on that list people who you reached out to but didn't reply. There could be many reasons why they didn't reply to you. It could be that they had the virus, for goodness sake, they were too sick to reply to you, or they just were too swamped that day, or they weren't looking at their messages that day, or they thought they'd get back to you but forgot by the time the evening came along. So don't assume they ignored you, they just might have been distracted. So drop it a line with them again. And if you know those people by a different medium, so if you emailed them, but you also have their Facebook message, or if you Facebook message, but you can WhatsApp, you could try contacting them on a different channel to see if that resonates with what they're looking at right now. And you might just start it with, you know, oh, I dropped you a message last week, but I didn't hear from you and I was a bit worried about you. Is everyone healthy? Is everyone well? This was the message that I was messaging you about. Because it might be, you know, it might be that something happened last week, who knows? So, you know, I had a lady that I did exactly that with, and I said, the following week, I was like, I messaged her, turns out she'd been made redundant the week before, and she was in such shock, and she was having to hand over and figure things out, and she was like, I'm so sorry, I just couldn't get back to anyone. This was so consuming my mind. But I really appreciate that you thought of me, and so now we're having a chat, and she's coming on the following Wednesday. So you never know. So in your planning, you definitely want the people you approached the week before that you didn't hear from, because you just don't know. So this gives you a cycle of activity, and what this does is it creates habits. So habits create a platform for us to improve each week and to move our business in a forward direction. Habits help overcome a lack of willpower or motivation. So if we are, you know, distracted with a family at home and other things going on, having a set of weekly habits or a structure can help with that. It's easy to make time once you get into this habit when life starts to get busy again, you know, or maybe life is busy for you now. I don't know, we're all in different boats here, but if you are going back to work or clinic or whatever, or your life was prior to lockdown, if you've practiced some weekly habits, you're going to do this faster and quicker, and you'll find slivers of time to keep your weekly habits really, really easy. And it also enables you to make tiny and easy changes that can actually deliver big results. If you read the book Atomic Habits, that is all about little tweaks, and these little tweaks week on week make big improvements. And it gives you the chance to get back on track. So if you have got off course for whatever reason, you know, hopefully we all remain perfectly well, but there might be family members we're worried about and things like that, things that happen that take us off course. Knowing you've got a structure to come back to will help you to get back on course. Now, obviously, outside of these, the webinar activity, we still have things like, you know, the lifestyle analysis training, team calls, and other activities that as well as, and we factor those in, discovery calls, helping new team members, and all of these things. But what I want to really help you with is this sort of plan of action that sweeps around week on week, that can help you to utilize these business opportunity webinars, and for you to feel that excitement, because it is exciting when you have a guest that's actually on the webinar and they're reviewing it for the first time. So I'm going to stop sharing in a moment because I need to look at the chat box. So I'm going to say, did you have a number in mind of how many people you're going to invite to this week's webinar? Let's just put in the chat box if you've got a feeling in your head like, yeah, that's it, I'm definitely going to put these amount of invites on my list for this week, pop a number in the chat box if you're going to make a commitment to yourself. So Sam's saying 5, good. Catherine's 5, Hillary's 2, because we've all got our own plans and goals. Jack is going for 10, Kat's 15. Awesome. Fabulous, guys. I love this. I'm going to have to get a chat transcript. But the main thing is you're all coming up with a plan. And so what might be 2 this week, might be 4 next week, might be 10 the week after. You know, every week might be different. So it doesn't have to be 2 every week or 10 every week or any number every week. It's about what you feel you can do this coming week. So well done on all of you that have made a commitment. So make sure you've written down your number on your notepad in front of you so you don't forget what you wrote. And say to yourself that that's your commitment. You're going to make 2 invites or 4 invites or 10 invites or 15 invites to the next week's webinar. So let me just share my screen once again. Okay, so I'm hoping that you feel like you've got an action plan. That's the plan. You know, you've got the webinar and you've got a game plan. And if we have a game plan, then we're halfway done, really. So what I want to inspire you even further now is some testimonials from people who have had guests that they may have known before, and they've come onto the webinar, and those guests have since joined the team, and we're very, very delighted that they have joined the team. So first of all, can we hear from Jackie? Jackie, can you unmute yourself, please?
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Jackie. Now, you had invited your contact Colin, who I know is on the call today as well. And Colin, you're very welcome to unmute yourself if you want to. But Jackie, we'll start with you. Do you want to tell us how you met Colin and how that came to be?
Yes, so I met Colin a couple of months ago at a school I was consulting at in Milton Keynes, and Colin was there doing some supply work. He'd been basically thrown in at the deep end with a year 11 maths lesson, so I'd stayed in the class to help him out, and we just got chatting. I asked him what had made him come out of full-time teaching, and I just mentioned that I'd come out of full-time teaching as well, and it had allowed me the freedom to be able to build my own business. And he asked me what was that about, and I just basically said, I can't really talk to you about it at the moment because obviously we're in school, but here's my Facebook page. Do you want to go and have a look and then get in touch with me if you want some more information? I just told him a little bit about what we did, and he said, oh, that sounds interesting. And a couple of weeks later, he messaged me. We had a chat on the phone, and then he messaged me to say that it looks like a good idea, but at the moment he was unsure about what he was going to do in terms of work and things like that, and he'd think about it after we'd come out of lockdown. So when the webinars had started, I messaged him and just said, look, I know that you're sort of concerned about your income, and you know, at this moment in time, I might have, you know, it might be a good time to look at the business because obviously you've got the concerns. We've got this business opportunity webinar. Would you like to come on? And so he did. And I don't know if you unmuted yourself, Colin. I don't know if you'd be happy to share what it was about the webinar that inspired you to join the team.
Yeah, hi, morning everybody. I looked at the webinars and it clarified lots of questions I had in my head about what the business was and how I could move forward with it. Obviously, I come from a teaching background, a PE teaching background, so sort of the gut health and the sports supplement side of it really rang a bell with me. And I looked at it and thought that could be a real avenue going forward for me to have a second income as well as sort of teaching, supply teaching. I can keep doing some of that for income, and this could be a second income. And then as the business grows and builds, having seen the business webinar, how you can build it and how you generate a bigger income from it, I thought it's like a really good idea to sort of get involved with. And obviously, being currently on lockdown, I'm currently on furlough because I'm a supply teacher. I've now got the time to sort of sit down and get my head around it all and see how I can move myself forward with it.
Thank you, Colin. I think one of the things you mentioned was that about the support that you noticed in the webinar, about how much support you'd actually get. You won't be just left to your own devices. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you can. I speak to you on a week. We've spoken on Zoom a couple of times this week already. These sort of chats on a Saturday morning. There's a whole network of support around, and I'm growing my knowledge of
the products and what I'm actually getting into. Because obviously, from the health side of things, I understand sort of the health side of things, but from the business side of things, I'm new to it because I'm coming from a teaching background. So, from that sort of things, definitely as much support as possible is there, and you can tap into it quite easily and quite readily. So it's all good from that point of view.
Brilliant, thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it, Michael, especially as you've just joined the team, really. So I'm so grateful for your teamship there and for sharing your thoughts. We're absolutely delighted to have you on board. So thank you so much. And thank you, Jackie, as well, for sharing that story. Hopefully that's very inspiring. There's a lot of teachers, I'm sure, that are in that exact scenario. I mean, Jackie, just want to say that about teachers, because I think some are probably having to go into work right now if they're looking after, but I'm sure schools are on reduced staff, aren't they?
Yeah. I think one of the things that really has rung home to me what you've said today is that I can imagine there's a lot of teachers out there that are thinking they don't want to go back, because I know that horror feeling of having to go back after the summer holidays or after any of the holidays and just really, really not wanting to do it. Because, you know, my daughter used to say to me all the time, Mum, why do you go? Why are you a teacher when you hate it so much? And I was like, I don't know what else I'm going to do. And so, you know, we've got the opportunity to tell them or show them that there is something else that you can do, you know. And you know, I'm an ex-teacher, which I love saying. I used to be a teacher. And, you know, Colin will at some point be able to say that as well. And it's just, you know, it doesn't cost them anything just to jump on a 30-minute call just to have a look. You know, there's no obligation to do anything. They're just taking a look. And, you know, if it sparks their interest, then, oh God, and it's taking all the legwork out for us, because often, you know, we don't know how to explain it very well and how you're going to get all that across in a quick, you know, conversation with somebody. So at least, you know, the other people that have been on the call as well that I've invited have just said that it's really, really comprehensive and it answers all the questions that they could think of. And it just, you know, shows that it's a good business model.
Great. I love that, Jackie. Thank you so much. Food for thought for all of us, including me. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And so I'd like to turn to Sam. Sam, we had a quick chat yesterday, I know, and you had the lovely Michael join your team. So do you want to just share with us how that story came about? I'm not sure if Michael's on the call today or not, but
I have seen him. I think he's here.
You're very welcome to.
He's
Oh,
here.
Michael,
Yay.
brilliant. Let me see if I can find you on the cameras. So Sam, yeah, do you want to share your story with Michael?
Yes, I met Michael a couple of months ago, actually. I went to a business networking event down here and did the old, you know, stand up for 2 minutes and talk about your business pitch. And talked obviously about, I teach yoga and do Reiki and things, all with a view to improving people's mental health, which is exactly what I love about Synergy and Synergy products. Is it improves everyone's mental health as well as their physical health. So that was primarily what the line I took with my pitch. And then I met Michael, who also, he has his own business as well, all about promoting mental health, amazing things like that. So we just came together, and it was a uniting of interest. And we talked more about the product and him joining the business back then. And then we both got slightly sidetracked into other things. And but obviously coming to the lockdown, my focus is there's not many people coming to yoga classes at the moment, unfortunately. So focus has come back onto Synergy, and obviously the business webinar is an amazing opportunity to tell people about it. Like as Jackie just said, it's 30 minutes. You can say, come on, it's 30 minutes, check it out. So I thought about Michael and gave him a call and invited him to come on and check it out. Yeah, and he did. Hooray! Thank you, Michael. And Michael, I don't know if you want to say a little bit about how you found the business webinar to be and what had you go for it.
Yeah, so from my point of view, obviously, as Sam says, I'm all around mental health. You can probably see a banner that's sitting behind me that's been there since lockdown and probably stay there beyond. I'm all about training people to understand their mental well-being, and our slight distraction that Sam mentioned there over the last couple of months was whereby I've actually been building a well-being partners group. This is a group of people that are offering all things well-being whether it be hypnotherapy, yoga, Reiki, nutritionists, all sorts of areas of life. So it's a keen interest of mine. I've worked in wellbeing all my life. And I've never done a diet other than a seafood diet. I worked in hospitality for 17 years and I picked whatever I wanted off a menu and the chef would cook it for me. I was a very lucky person. My waistline doesn't think so. I've actually been quite unwell over the last 18 months as well, and I don't mind sharing that. In the past 18 months, I've had spinal surgery, I've had a pacemaker fitted, and this is from somebody that spent 30 years of their life playing sport every day of the week. I was a very energetic person, and I feel like I've lost all of that. Certainly the questionnaire I did with Sam yesterday, I think it was, shows that my levels are very poor right now. The big reason for me to join was, one, primarily I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I know I'm not fully me. I'm working at about 50% of my true self, and I want to find that other 50% back ultimately. And it's the energy I see in people that are using the products. I think from Sam herself is clearly very energized, and from the webinar that I saw, you can tell almost to people that are using the products compared to those of us that are not yet. I plan to start on Monday. My big challenge at the moment is reducing my coffee intake, so I'm doing well. I've had one today. I've been up since 7 o'clock this morning, and normally I'd have had probably be on my 5th about now, so it's going the right way. And from a business point of view, obviously it just fits like a glove to what I'm already doing. It's like the next stage of the conversation, so it's just a no-brainer for me.
I really, really appreciate that, Michael. Thank you so much. And we're so grateful that you've joined our team. And we're going to look forward to seeing the reinvention of Michael in, no doubt, a very short space of time, I would think, in comparison. So look forward to you getting your own self back. It's good that you've called it 50%, because then you'll know when you're 60% yourself and 70% yourself. And maybe, who knows whether you'll get to 100, but any percentage more than what it is, it's got to be a bonus, hasn't it? So
absolutely, clearly, yeah, there's too many things that I'm trying to do all at the same time, and I think ultimately this will help give a bit of clear focus along that path. So,
and I think you'll have a very inspiring story to help a lot of other people as well, especially in the mental health and well-being side of things. Very, very inspiring story. So, well, appreciate that. And Sam, thank you for that as well. And congratulations as well on your team, your new team member. So, you know, and also you were saying, Sam, that you're a yoga teacher. Is it Pilates? So that, I mean, that there must be lots of people in that face-to-face style of industry. Whatever it is, they must be really struggling to do anything right now. I mean, have you managed to convert some clients to online, or have you found any difficulties with your client base?
I haven't. I'm still doing distance Reiki, which you can do between yourself and anyone in the world. But the yoga I haven't transferred. And lots of people have said that to me. You're going to run online classes and things like that. But I don't really feel called to do that. I've actually felt more called to focus on the synergy side of the business right now.
Very
so
sensible.
That's what I'm doing.
Excellent.
I don't want to make videos of myself in the leggings or the...
No, it's not my cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea.
Leave that to other people.
Brilliant, love it. Well, that's wonderful. So I'm hoping that everyone has popped some messages in the chat box. I'm hoping you're feeling inspired by that. And that these webinars will resonate with the people that they are meant to resonate with. And they're not going to resonate with everyone, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is to give people a good look-see, and then they can decide for themselves. So with that, we're now going to look at ways of marketing the webinar. And Simon has certainly been the brainchild of a lot of our very simple to use marketing campaigns. So I'm going to hand over now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because Simon will share his own slides. And I'm going to hand over to my other half, the genius of the two of us, and that be Simon. Can we hear you loud and clear, Simon?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you see this? Can you see the slide?
Yes, we
Excellent.
can. Thank you.
And as to being the genius of the couple, well, we know which one of us qualified for Mensa, and it wasn't me. So I'll just point that out. So over the next 10 to 15 minutes, what I want to talk about is how we go about marketing the webinar. We've talked about why we have the webinar. So now I want to talk about the actual marketing aspect of it. And as Kim said, the purpose of the webinar is not to sell anything. So if you look at the definition of the word marketing, typically you're either promoting something or you're selling something. What we're actually doing with the webinar is we are giving people the opportunity to learn about something that could potentially solve a problem or an issue that they have that they want to change. We're not, the webinar's purpose is not to convince someone to join Synergy, it's to purely provide information to enable them to make their own decision. So it's not designed specifically to sell anything, although we do talk about the products, and we've had people buy the products as a byproduct of the webinar because they're like, wow, that V3 looks really brilliant, can I get some of that? So the main purpose is information. So if we talk about the list of people that you talked about, Kim, in your cycle of activity, let's talk a bit about how to reach prospects online. So the first thing is, and this isn't just online, this is anyone that teaches communication skills, is you're always better off speaking to people in their own language. And that's just as true when you're online as when you're offline. So if the person that you have on your list of 10 uses Facebook, use that to communicate with them. If they use Instagram heavily and you don't, consider learning it. We have free online training for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn available on the Heart to Heart portal. There are, I think they're about 45 minutes long each one. They were professionally done by a trainer that we paid for, so they're free for you to use. The point is, there's no right or wrong channel to communicate with someone. It depends upon their own style, but there are right and wrong ways in how you communicate with them. And what I want to do is concentrate on some of the really good ways that you can do when you're communicating with one of those 10 people on your list. As Kim said, and also as Caroline said very well, put yourself in their shoes. You know, firstly, what kind of people are you looking to attract into your business? This is your business. You are the CEO of your own business. So what you want to do is attract people that you want to work with. Don't attract people that you don't want to work with, because that won't make you enjoy your own job. So think about the people that you want to work with. Put yourself in their shoes. What concerns them right now? That particular person that you want to talk to, what are the things that are worrying them right now? What are they looking for? Do they have a family? Maybe they're looking for some more time with their family. Maybe they're looking for some extra money for vacations. Maybe they're looking for a second car for the family because they have one and they've got 2-3 kids and one car is used a lot. Maybe they're looking to decrease the number of hours because they're self-employed and they're in a, like Kim was, doing massage, and she wanted to spend less time stood up doing the massaging because her hands were starting to hurt. What are they particularly looking for? What will make them invest 35 minutes of their time to watch the webinar? Don't think about what it is that you are offering them. Think about what it is that they would like. So put yourself in their shoes. And as several people have said, don't just post the link to the webinar. And there's 4 main reasons for that. The first one is if you get them to respond to you with a request for the link, it adds value to the event itself. If you just send the link out to 50 people, there is no value in that link because there's no value in the person because they haven't asked for it. But if you send out either a message, as Caroline said, a personal message, or you do some social media posts and you're asking people to request the link, they are requesting it. It gives value to the thing that you're then sending back. And also, them asking for the link makes you have their contact details, which makes following up afterwards much easier. If you just send the link out to 50 people, how do you know whether they saw the link? You don't know who's registered for it, so making that follow-up is a lot easier. And the other thing is, if you just post the link out, other Synergy teams outside of the heart-to-heart team will go onto the webinar, they will look at it, they will maybe think, oh, that's a really good way of doing it. We want to keep the competitive edge that the heart-to-heart team has. We've already had several examples of other teams that have gone on to the webinar and actually have some of them, to be fair, they've been very nice because we know some of them have said, you know, can we have those slides? Can we have this? Can we have that? So don't just post the link with the meeting ID and the password out. And that last one is really key as well, because those people that have been using Zoom may be aware that increasingly in the press, we're finding these things called Zoom bombing. So if you post a meeting ID and a password out publicly, those details are being shared by various groups of people that are going in and interrupting the meeting. They're either interrupting it with their own video feed, or they're interrupting it to gain access to the list of people on the meeting, which they can then use to then target them for cybercrime and spamming. So don't post the meeting ID and the password out in public. Ask people to ask for it, and then you can send the link directly. What I want to do now is I want to just touch on 3 examples, 3 platforms, so Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, of people that have used those platforms really well to invite people to the webinar. So these are 3 really great Facebook examples. So the first one on the left is from Peace. It's what she has done really well there. And it doesn't matter whether it's her story or someone else's story, but the story itself starts with a nice amount of text before the picture. And it immediately says that the event is today. So the moment people start reading it, they know that what's coming up is something that's happening today, so they can prepare for it. The second example is Rebecca's, which is absolutely amazing. Rebecca is using stories as opposed to posts in Facebook. They look different. They have this option of saying whether they're interested. The way it's displayed is very different. And Facebook statistics show that stories get better engagement with your prospects than, stories get better engagement than simple posts. So really well done there, Rebecca. And the last one is from Sarah, who has changed the language that she uses in the text. So she's like, you know, evening chaps, and then she ends it with big hugs. It's a great use of conversational language, and it builds trust. There's a very personal ending to it. So there's 3 very different styles of Facebook ads, and they all work in different ways. The next one is Instagram. So first off, if you're going to use Instagram, please add the hashtag Synergy Heart to Heart team, because it's all about other people will then see it as well. The first one I really, really like. It's very direct. as you can see, they've added this line, listen in, you've got nothing to lose, exclamation mark, at the top of the image. It will appeal to a very distinct audience that are looking for something now. It won't appeal to everyone, but it will appeal to those people that want something right now, that maybe are looking for something. It works really well. The second one works really, really well because it's using multiple images, but saying the same thing. So the message is the same, but because it's using 3 different images, it's appealing to a wider audience, because the person that looks at image 1 may not relate to it, but they may relate to image 3. So it works really, really well in that respect. And the third one, which I really like, is it's very simple. It's clean. There isn't a lot of text, but the use of hashtags is excellent. And also, one of the things that Anna has done really well there is she's got other team members to comment on the post. So you can see there that Julia has also posted on that, which boosts the audience that that particular post has. So it's a really good combination of a simple interface with team members also commenting. So that's a really good example of 3 Instagram social media posts that work really, really well. And the last one is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a very different audience. It's more people in corporate or business driven. It's starting to get a little Facebooky. A lot of the people on LinkedIn are saying, but at the moment it's still pretty much business and corporate. I really like Kat's first post here. The image she's chosen is very good. It's of a young professional couple. They're using a nice shiny Mac computer, you know, so it appeals to the business people on LinkedIn. Also, what she's done really well is she's linked another LinkedIn article in her post. So the article she's linked to is a very popular article actually done by LinkedIn themselves, by one of the editors. So she's actually linked another LinkedIn article, and that works really well for getting engagement. The second one is one that I did, and the purpose behind this post is it doesn't actually talk about the webinar itself. It doesn't ask people to attend in terms of, are you looking for something? It does that in the picture underneath, but in the text, it talks about how I had to learn the skills to do the video editing. It also talks about statistics, about the number of people attending and an increase, and it will appeal to numbers people and technical people. So it appeals to a specific niche audience. And the third one that Kim did, which I really, really like, is it includes a personal story. So it includes about the fact that, you know, 21 years ago, I started my journey. It talks about the journey. And then at the end, it then says, invest 30 minutes of your time to maybe find your own story. And it has a really clean call to action at the end. So those are 3 really good LinkedIn examples. So to end the presentation, what I want to do is ask Liz, if you could unmute yourself. How have you found marketing the webinar itself? What tools and techniques do you use?
Okay, so to date, I haven't done much on social media at all. I am very much a you know, person to person and obviously at the moment I can't see anybody apart from people in the street. So I'm picking up the phone. I love just chatting on the phone. So I've been coming from a place of connecting with people that I know. And for me, I find it's really quite an easy time to pick up the phone and talk to people because, you know, yes, people are available, that's for one. Sometimes you're picking up the phone and you're not likely to get somebody on the other end of it, but there's more opportunity for people to pick up the phone now and answer you. And also, you know, I'm just coming from a place of, how are you? You've been on my mind, just wondering how you are. And we can all do that with people we know. And I'm asking them different questions. You know, if I know they've got kids, I'm saying, how's the homeschooling going? That usually gets into a real good conversation because most parents are fed up with that now, and the kids too. And then we talk, you know, I'm saying, oh, are you able to work? You know, what's happening with your job? Are you furloughed? You know, and just asking them questions to find out where they are at in this situation. That, you know, we're all in different situations, aren't we, under this you know, lockdown situation. But it's allowing me then to find a way in, because they're telling me, you know, what is going wrong, you know, what they're fed up with, the fact they don't want to go back to their job, so they're not able to see their clients, you know, because a lot of them have got client bases perhaps. And then invariably the question comes back round to me.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing then, Liz? You know, you run a clinic, you're not able to see anybody. You know, what are you doing? How are you filling your time? And I can actually say, well, do you know what? It's really exciting right now, in a way, in a funny sort of way. You know, I'm involved with lots of training, but we've got webinars, and you know, we're looking to grow the team as well. So it's a good opportunity for us right now, and we're helping people with health and wellness, because lots of people are wanting to find or explore solutions as to how they can boost their immune system, use this period of time to focus on their health and wellness. And it depends on who I'm talking to and what reaction I'm getting back. Sometimes I'll say, actually, while we're on this subject, you know people I don't know. Do you happen to know anybody? So I'm taking it away from them and using that referral opportunity. In some cases, they'll say, oh, webinars. So what are you actually sharing? But invariably, the people I've contacted anyway are maybe people that I've spoken to in the past who haven't been ready for an opportunity with Synergy or to start a business, or they might be people that were wanting to come to one of my gut health talks, maybe in South Somerset or down in Devon, and weren't able to come. So everyone's a little bit of a different start off point with the chat, but I'm always asking them questions in coming from a place of compassion, you know, showing them compassion and empathy as well. But you never know where there's going to be that opportunity to then sow the seed. So I've been doing it that way. I spoke to 10 people for last Wednesday's business opportunity, and 6 came on board.
Oh, that's excellent.
One person couldn't, she had a family bereavement. Another person completely forgot, but she set her alarm for it for this Wednesday. And then another couple, I think some family stuff came up. But that's a good conversion, really, from just picking up the phone and chatting to somebody.
That's excellent, and I think it reinforces the fact that Kim said is you're keeping track of it as well, because, you know, in 3 weeks' time you wouldn't have remembered that you had 10 people, that you had 6 turn up. It's really important to keep track of those particular numbers. Thanks very much indeed, Liz. What about you, Nick?
You're welcome.
Can you hear me, Nick?
Yes, sorry, forgot to unmute myself.
That's okay, no problem at all. You're another phone person, aren't you? Which is excellent, because people are at home.
Yes, I am a phone person, but because I basically loathe Facebook. But what is interesting is that a couple of people that I have known from a very long time ago have actually got in touch via Facebook or Messenger. And one of them's in the States and one of them is either in Egypt or Dubai or somewhere. But the one in the States I met when I was in the Philippines way back in 1986, because yes, I am that old. And I stayed with his family and we started having conversations on Messenger. And I'm thinking, you know, and I asked him what he did and what the family's doing and how long he's been there. And I said absolutely nothing about me at all, which is quite unusual, let's face it. So when he eventually did say, what are you doing? Instead of telling him, I said, well, I am helping people health-wise, but the best way for you to get an understanding of what I am doing is to hop on a webinar that I have some friends who are doing on Wednesday evening, because that will give you a really good idea of what I'm up to. So as a result, he came on the webinar and I got a message, and actually we had a phone call afterwards, first time I'd spoken to him for 34 years, because actually it's something that he is interested in. He's probably going to be in the States for another 2 or 3 years because his kids are almost grown up. and then he may go back to the Philippines. But in the meantime, he's been, you know, doing things like car sales or cleaning swimming pools and other sort of stuff. But he's not had a particularly great career, shall we say. And at the moment, obviously, he has no income at all, because in the States they haven't been furloughed like the people here are lucky enough to be. So he's taking a very serious look at it. He's you know, got the ebooks. He's having a look at that. Unfortunately, this wasn't possible because it's 3 o'clock in the morning, or 2 o'clock in the morning in California at the moment. But you know, I'm hopeful, and he seems very excited about it. So I think what I'm trying to say is wait for them to ask you what you are doing, rather than spouting forth what you are doing, because if they want to know, they will ask. And then actually it's a really good way. I was on another call with a group thing of therapists who are trying to be supported, and one lady was particularly concerned because, you know, you can't get she's only been self-employed for a year. You can't get universal credit if you've got savings. She doesn't want to dip into her pension. So I sent her a personal message during the call saying, you know, I can hear, I'm sorry that you're struggling. I have something which, if you'd like to look at it. And again, we then had a conversation. She came on the webinar on Wednesday night. So again, that was like you've said, you know, look, and like Caroline said, coming from their solution, finding a solution for them.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you very much indeed, Nick. I think we're pretty much out of time, but I will hand back to Kim I think there's one more slide to go, babes.
You need to unmute yourself, Kim.
Gosh, there you are. Thank you for that. So let's just round up a few things before we go. Just another, won't hold you up any much longer. But thank you so much for sharing, everybody, on the social media and the picking up the phone, and you know, it's just good to hear. You know, you've got to go with what feels right for you, and different approaches. But the thing I love with the social media is the imagery that Simon has done. There's lots of different pictures of different people, but they're all very similar in terms of the color scheme and everything. And that's going to actually create its own momentum when those things are out and about, because it will become a recognizable thing that people will spot, especially like Instagram, different hashtags and things like that. So I love the fact that the advertising we're doing for it is all around a theme, and that's going to have a lot of power in that theme. And someone asked a question about different days and times, and Simon and I did think about this, and we might be open to it in the future. But right now, what we want to do is build energy towards this particular event. You know, it builds its own momentum because people are looking forward to that one time in the week where it's going to be on. So right now, we're just going to keep it to the Wednesday, but potentially might consider doing other days and times further down the line. But what we would always say to you is that if you had a group of 10 or 15 or 20 people and you want us to do a webinar just for you and your group, with you starting it and introducing us and closing it at the end, we are so open for that. So if you can't make Wednesdays, but you want to get your own group together, then let's do that instead. So, you know, that's absolutely no problem. We'll factor that in for you, for anyone. So let's just finish off then with some reminders and before we leave. So, oops, here we go. Oh, why is that showing a different set of slides? Oh, that's right, I know. Of course, I have those slides on here too. So let's just go forward to pass those to here. So reminders. So team call every Mondays for 30 minutes. And Simon is the host of this Monday's call, giving me a break because I've had a very busy planning week. And so Simon is your host, and I don't even know what he's going to be talking about yet. So tune in on Monday on this exact same webinar link that you are on now. Always this same one for Mondays.
All I'm saying is you don't want to miss it.
Business Opportunity Wednesdays. This is on a different link. The meeting ID number is there. Now, we are meant to be having a next in-person training event in July. This is what was planned. And so Home Counties is in Oxfordshire for all those around, July 12th. North and Northwest is in Bolton on the 13th. South and Southwest is in Bristol on the 18th. Exactly the same agenda, different speakers of the agenda for the different countries, but the idea is to get the same training in different parts of the country. So wherever you're nearest, pencil that in. Now, obviously, if we are unable to do that in person because things are still as they are, and they might well be, then we will do another 2-hour Zoom training like this on July the 12th. So pencil in that 2-hour Zoom and pencil in your local event, and we'll just have to wait till we get to around the end of May, and then we'll have an idea of what we're going to be able to do or not.
Kim, just quickly, I think you got the dates wrong, 12th and 13th, because it's the, is it not the 11th and 12th for Home Counties at Northwest, or are we doing Sunday, Monday?
You know what? I did it so fast. You're probably right, Julia. In fact,
So if it's Saturday, Sunday, then the Home Counties would be on Saturday the 11th, and the North and Northwest is on Sunday the 12th.
we're just going to do this because then no one will notice any difference at all. Look at that. See? There you are. Done all along.
Sorry to barge in.
No, glad you did. God, if you took a photo, delete it. So that means, and actually I've just seen that that will also be on July 11th. There, now, perfectly tickety-boo. July 11th, 12th and 18th, or a 2-hour Zoom on July 11th. Julie, you're a superstar. You see, this is why I have these team members to sort me out when I go wrong. So thank you so much for your time this morning. I don't know whether you want to unmute yourselves and say some goodbyes. I hope you got stacks out of it. If anyone did ask questions, put them again in the chat, or stay online and you can ask them if you have them. But otherwise, I wish you all a fantastic weekend and go enjoy the sunshine. Thank you so much, guys. Make your list.
It was really good, so beneficial.
Everyone, really enjoyed it.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.